Hey, good morning, folks. I'm Live Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa here with the MLive Morning Weather Update. And, what I do is I watch the atmosphere all the time. I watch the data, and we go through the seasonal changes, right? We know we're going to go from winter to spring, but we're in a zone here where sometimes winter is stronger than spring, sometimes spring is stronger than winter. And what I'm seeing today is that we talked about, a little mini Arctic blast about March 3rd or March 4th. Now everything shows that not so much of an Arctic blast. And what does that say? That says that the whole hemisphere, southern part of the U.S. is starting to warm up and everything is inching northward. So there's going to be a little less winter talk here and a little more spring talk in this one. Of course, we know that winter is not done. And of course, it's right here, right now. We still have, pretty vigorous area of snow from Gaylord area down through maybe Kalkaska into Augrey and Tawas, and various spots have little snow showers around. These are shrinking, so it's not something that really is a significant travel problem. And of course, it is very cold, yes. Go Blue SH. How's travel looking tomorrow morning from Glenview, Illinois, I'm assuming, to Grand Rapids? We'll get into that. Should be good. So here's our radar forecast for today. 11 o'clock, noon. And all it says is that some snow showers can come down through the Saginaw Valley and maybe into the Flint area. This is 4 o'clock this afternoon, 5, 6. The Traverse City region, occasional lake effect snow. In this kind of situation, it's 5, 10, 15 minutes here and there, and it just doesn't mount up a whole lot. And we go to tonight, and things look dry. All right, so here's total snowfall forecast for today. And there you see it. Oh, dusting, less than an inch in most spots. Maybe in that true snow belt of Kalkaska and Gaylord, you might say could be an inch or two. Hey, Marjorie Stevens has a good report. The birds are singing it's spring. They're optimists. Yeah. One of my best buddies, Jim, he's tuned into the birds too. He's outside. He's a builder, and he's telling me the birds always tell me when spring is coming. Of course, he has a lower standard. He likes it when it gets 35 and 40. You can get outside, and your fingers don't freeze while you're building a house and whatnot. So he's saying the same thing too. The birds are showing it, and I do agree. All right, so now, remember, we like to together, we like to do something that you can't get really in any other weather broadcast. We like to look at the big picture together, the steering currents of the atmosphere, so you know where we're going in general. Yeah, we got the day-to-day stuff, and all weather is local, just you depend on it. But let's look at the big picture. Remember, the big picture showed this glancing blow of the far southern edge of a weaker polar vortex about March 3rd or March 4th. It's shown that for several days now. Now look what it shows this morning, an even weaker glancing blow coming up. So here we go. So, and for those of you not familiar, I show this a lot, that this is at about 15,000 feet up, so halfway up. This is the highway of storm systems and the good way to look at the big picture. So any bend in the jet stream is a storm system. We have one coming through now, but the bend is way to our north, so it's not really a vigorous storm. You'll note that as we get into Friday, things lift northward. That helps us become pretty mild for Friday. And you'll note that there is a kind of a significant bend in the jet stream on Friday into Saturday, but to our north, that's been showing up consistently. That's going to be a dry cold front that sends our temperatures again kind of cold for the weekend. Then we look for where does that polar vortex drop down again. Now we're at March 3rd, March 4th, March 5th. Note that it stays just off the screen, just to the northeast. That's a warmer scenario for March 4th and 5th as we go into a southwesterly flow and the polar vortex kind of disappears on the map. And now we're at March 8th. Look at that. Where is our air coming from on March 8th if this verifies? And it's been showing this quite a bit. Where's our air coming from? It's coming from Texas. You don't get really cold if your air comes from Texas in early March. And so we're kind of going to a southwest flow. What this would also say is we're going to get into spring rains. Cold fronts make a quarter to a half inch of rain with a thunderstorm, or if we get into the shield of rain on the north side of the storm, you get an inch of rain. So we're going to get some significant moisture coming up here in the next several weeks. So here we go. Today is a pretty good travel day. Tomorrow, a little bit of a mix of light rain, light snow, maybe. There's your storm system staying way to our north, cranked up. That's a crazy storm up in Canada. And it drives a dry cold front through on Friday. Gets us colder for the weekend. We're going to look at a little closer to this, but this is a fast moving, just little skiff of snowfall. It looks like a 1 or 2 incher on Saturday night. Watch this. This is Monday. Watch this. It's been consistently to our south. Again, a fast mover. None of these fast movers can become blockbuster storms. Now we're out on March 4th and March 5th, and we're starting to, this is an important position, we're starting to see that high pressure center off the east coast. That gets us into a southerly flow, and you'll note that the storm systems start to look a little different then. They start to look like rains, and they come every couple of days. This is March 7th or 8th. Something like that, southwesterly wind, flow from the south, prior to rain, you get into the 60s, it looks like. I feel like we're going to have a 60-degree day or two somewhere around March 7th, March 8th, March 9th, somewhere in there. And behind it, not much of a cold push at all because the next storm system already coming northward. And now, do know that, we're into this point where I gotta say, winter's not over. And that's usually a winning bet for me at February 25th. But we get to March 8th and 9th and 10th, and we don't see anything really wintry for a week after that. Winter might be over for the most part. So let's just keep an eye on that. Here's the same model. Closer look here just at the weekend, and here's your Saturday afternoon into evening, Saturday evening into overnight, and by Sunday morning off. So across the southern half of Lower Michigan, there might be an inch, maybe 2 inches. You might have slick roads for a short time on Sunday morning, but that should be about it as any weather-related driving situations. And then that next storm system, keep an eye on it. It looks a touch more robust, faster moving, but it also looks like to the south, it could work its way northward. All right, now look at our temperatures. So, of course, cold weather is not done, but it's in its last month, folks. Highs today, cold, below freezing for most of us, except Ann Arbor, Detroit, far southeast. Thursday, upper 20s, low 30s for most of us. Friday, a mild day, back to the 50s from Bay City to Mount Pleasant to Grand Rapids southward. Traverse City gets into the 40s, as does most of northern Lower Michigan. And in the far south, Ann Arbor, you get to 55. remember I talked about a dry cold front. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Hey, really, guy, 3331. I need my Bagel the Beagle update. Hope the little guy is okay. I'm sure he is napping a lot. He is about 5 feet off screen. He is sleeping like he does. He sleeps about 16 hours during the day and wakes us up twice at night. So if we have bags under our eyes, you know why. But he's going strong. He's slowing down. He's real slow. His right leg gets stiff. And, he's 22. Not in any pain, but if he ever does something to his leg, we got to have the sad day because we would just not want him to be in any pain. So here's Saturday. Here's Sunday. So the weekend is cold. The weekend behind that cold front is cold, but bounces back quickly. Monday, Tuesday. Now remember, we were looking for a cold snap on about the 4th or 5th of March. Now killed off. Highs in the 40s. Thursday, the 5th, highs in 40s and 50s. Friday, the 6th, and you see the warmth building to the south. And look at the experts. They've jumped on this too at around March 10th or so. So here is your 6 to 10 day temperature forecast. About normal, wetter than normal. But then look at what they do 8 to 14 day. March 4th to 10th. They just take the whole U.S. and call it warmer than normal, and they say, strong chance of warmer than normal into Michigan, and just to our south, a stronger chance. And note the swath of more than normal precipitation because of that southwesterly flow. So some very interesting things going on. And right now, I would say that the momentum is definitely toward spring trying to build. If you get mild temperatures in the first 2 weeks of March, you get the snow gone, you get the frost out of the ground, you get the ice totally off the Great Lakes, you make that solid step toward spring weather, and you have to start to wonder, do you get any snow in April? Flukes can always happen, but it would be very short. So right now, I'm feeling like the next month is momentum towards spring. And, I wouldn't say it publicly, but I'll say it to you, my friends here. Winter might be just about toast. We'll see. So there's your weather update for me, MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa. Have yourselves a great day. Bye.